Okay, so to be a little bit more explanatory on one of my first rants, this would be the third rant. I want to talk more about women, modesty, and Muslims. My personal opinion is that, and I have read the Quran, so don't don't judge. My personal opinion is that covering yourself and being modest is a choice. Modesty in itself, as a definition, is a choice. Although I can understand why Islamic countries make it mandatory to cover the body, I do not agree with them forcing women to cover themselves. Women have a choice whether or not they choose to follow the Quran, Muhammad, peace be upon him, and God, Allah. And if they don't want to follow it, then they don't have to. Granted, they live in an Islamic country, but just because a Muslim runs the country doesn't mean you can force everybody to be Muslim. It may be what they feel as best. However, it's not it's not right. It's not in the Quran. Although it says that you should try to, get people to convert and to be modest and, to fight anybody who's against Allah and Muhammad, peace be upon him, and all that kind of stuff. I personally believe that that's not what it meant. And there are many ways of interpreting what the Quran means, just like any ancient scrolls. Because even though the Quran hasn't been translated and it's been the same since it was written, you know, all those years ago, our understanding of English now and English then is very different. And, things there are things we say now that could be taken as offensive back then and vice versa. So, I don't think I don't think it's fair. And it really should be the woman's choice. Now, for all of those people out there who think that it's sexist, it is and it isn't. The men are required to be modest just as much as the women are. And if you look at traditional Muslim men clothes, um, they're just as covering. And they have to cover their head as well, just like the women do. Um, However, women's hair has always been seen as an attraction. So covering all the woman's hair is modest, as opposed to men where hair can be sexy, but let's face it, we're not in it for their hair. So they wear baggy clothing just like we do. And some guys don't, and they expect women to, which is sexist. And that's where the Quran is interpreted incorrectly, and not just religiously but culturally it's wrong as well. And I would like to say I'm a woman of the world. I know quite a bit about many cultures, and it's personally my hobby, but I just it's not okay to expect anybody to cover themselves when they're not comfortable doing so. I know there are countries, and I won't name any so I don't offend anybody, but there are countries where, wearing makeup, that's awful. And they're called a slut for wearing makeup or for plucking their eyebrows, or, you know, or if you have a few strands of hair showing. Like, a few pieces of hair is not going to get a man all over her. Wearing makeup, yes, it's to emphasize your beauty, but if a guy cannot control himself, and if it really comes down to you're being provocative for the men, that's not our problem. We're not doing it to provoke them. If they can't control themselves, then they should be punished. That's my personal opinion. You know, like when I see a guy with broad shoulders, you know, like I start drooling, and no amount of baggy clothes is gonna make me stop guessing. You know, you see a woman, any woman, Muslim or not, in a burqa, because you do not have to be Muslim to wear a burqa. You know, you can see her eyes. And whether or not she's wearing makeup or plucked her eyebrows, if you find her eyes attractive, and beauty is in the eye of the beholder, every man sees beauty in some kind of woman. But if a man sees her eyes as attractive, is that her fault? No, it's the guy's fault. You know, and she shouldn't be forced to wear a screen over her eyes just because a guy finds it attractive. God made her that way, and she shouldn't have to hide the beauty of what Allah has created. And this may just be my opinion, and I know some men, you know, don't like a woman out of a burqa. They think it's, you know, she's not respectable, but I can assure you, you can be a Christian, a Hindu, a Buddhist, a Sikh, you can be anything and be just as modest without wearing a burqa or a hijab. You know, most of the time I cover myself very well. And that's out of my modesty. And that's out of my choice. And just because I don't wear a hijab does not mean I'm looking for men, you know, to give me attention. If they want to give me attention, then maybe they should stop and go pray. Add another, you know, sixth prayer to their day. And pray for Allah to help them not think bad thoughts or see women with bad eyes. That's just my opinion. And if any guy is against that, then he needs to go back to his prayer rug and think about it. So that's my rant for today. If you have any questions about anything I said, let me know. I will be more than glad to elaborate. Any comments, leave them below. And thank you all for listening. Hope it made you think a little bit. And until next time, adios.